So good evening. Welcome to the White Oak Library. I'm Jenny Suva and welcome to Book Bites with Jenny. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about, give you a bio bite about myself. I work for the library for 21 years and I love to talk about books. And that is one of the things that I miss so much is talking with everyone about books when I'm out in the community. I've been doing a lot of that on the phone with my patrons, but I do miss seeing faces. So this is great. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you for coming. And my reader's advisory, people get their reader's advisory in so many places. The New York Times bestseller list, Goodreads, there's Lit Lovers, there's so many, Amazon, there's so many sources where people can get their next best read. And I like to talk to people. So I'm organic. That is my most, that's my most favorite thing to do. So that's why we're all here today. I did want to say, your public library, your librarians are great resources. And a lot of the libraries subscribe to a database called Novelist. And I love it. I use it a lot with my seniors for series, if they're interested in series or read-alikes. And it's a free resource through the library. Well, they pay for it, and, but it's a really great resource. I was just going to say, I have a book page. So some libraries are able to provide this for their readers online or the paper source. And this is a great little magazine. It's got lots of articles, lots of recommendations and interviews and lists of books in all different ages, all different genres, and it's right there for your hand. So I was going to talk a little bit today about mysteries. I'm a mysteries and a little bit about nonfiction. I'm just gonna, mix it up. I could probably do a whole program on either one. Mysteries, we could go on for days about that. But, and if either of those aren't your forte or aren't your favorite thing to read, that's okay, stick around. We're gonna hear from each other too and see what we're all reading too and hopefully come away with some good suggestions. So one of the best books that I've read recently, one of the best mysteries that I've read recently is The Unwilling by John Hart. He's a relatively new author. This is only his 7th novel, but I just love the way he writes. He was a lawyer. I think you'll be surprised how many authors started out as lawyers. They love the written word, and he writes a great literary thriller. Let me see. So this is a book where, let's see, after 3 tours in Vietnam, Jason French returns home decorated and disgraced, a hardened soldier whose appetite for violence and heroin land him in North Carolina's most notorious prison. And then released after 27 months, he seeks out his brother Gibby for an afternoon of fresh air, women, and whiskey in a final effort to break from his demons and reconnect with the only family he has left. Well, the day begins well, turns ugly when they encounter a prison bus on a stretch of empty road and a woman in their car taunts the inmates. A bloody riot ensues, and days later, the same woman is found dead. And of course, he is the initial suspect, the obvious suspect. And these are just there. It's not just a mystery about what happened and they're trying to figure it out so they can save themselves. And then another woman disappears, and then the younger brother Gibby is found suspect. So they're both racing against the clock, the police, and figuring out what happened. But the character of Jason, is John Hart said, is one of his favorite, one of the most memorable characters that he feels that he's written so far. And he's the Vietnam vet, and there's a mystery around him too, because he's this killing machine, but he's so much more than that, and has the utmost respect of the men he fought with and the people he fought to save. So I'm just going to go on it. Read him. So the other mystery that I read recently was the J.D. Robb, Faithless in Death. And this is the 52nd in the In Death series. And it's a little different kind of series. It takes place a little bit in the future. So there's some tech, there's flying cars, there's all kinds of tech stuff. And some of it is, a little out of this world, including off-world prisons and off-world vacations and, all kinds of stuff. So you may or may not like that. It's, I would say they're a sexy romantic thriller, but this one I really liked because what a murder they're investigating comes about is connected to a cult. And this is a cult that controls all and everyone and everything in it, steals people's identities, and just it's all about control. And there's so many different things that are going on right now. I know you know exactly where she stands politically. I'm just gonna say, but I love that. But series for me, I really love series. You get to learn the characters, the character development, their relationships with one another. I know the In Death series, there's sexy thrillers, there's all of that. But okay, let's take it back to the beginning. Where did my love of mysteries?
Excuse me, ma'am. My name is librarian Scott Casper. I'm with the White Oak Library District. I regret to inform you there's a missing book situation going on right now, and I'm afraid to say that everyone in this room is a suspect. I'll just be taking notes and observing. Please continue with what you're doing, ma'am.
Wow. Okay. All right. Just continue. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's a little unnerving, everyone, but I'm going to press on.
Don't worry, ma'am. You're not a suspect yet.
Thank goodness. Innocent face. No. So my love of series, yes, mystery series. Nancy Drew, Secret of the Old Clock. And it's funny because I really hadn't read a mystery series in a long, long time until after I started working at the library, and I'm discovering all these readers that are reading all these wonderful series, and they, you all hooked me up. So just briefly, one of my favorite authors that connected me with great mystery series is Michael Connelly. And his longest, this is The Black Echo. So that's the first in his Harry Bosch series. You may be familiar with the Prime series. It ran for 7 seasons called Bosch. I love Harry Bosch. He's gritty and down to earth, and he tells it like it is. And just such a great story.
Written 36 novels so far, correct?
You know what? I am not sure how many he's written. He's written the other series you may be familiar with is The Lincoln Lawyer. That sounds familiar, right? And The Lincoln Lawyer is Harry Bosch's half-brother, Mickey Haller. So, but anyway, I love Michael Connelly, and I hope that you might be interested in trying him. He's got some singles too, but I love his stuff. Another really popular series is the Louise Penny series. This is the first one, Still Life. And this is the first one. Number 17 is coming out August 24th, The Madness of Crowds. Okay, you've got 3 months. Go.
He's the author of the award-winning Armand Garmanche.
Right.
Garmanche.
It's Inspector Gamache, yes. And his
series of murder mysteries.
Yeah, so it takes place in Canada, in Quebec. And a lot of their police procedurals, and a lot of them take place in this Three Pines small Canadian town, and just a lot of wonderful characters. And again, the whole thing with series is that, you develop those characters. And
Her next book is going to
That's
be The
fine.
Madness of Crowds.
right, August 24th. Go. Okay. Anyway, we've got time to catch up. So that's enough on mysteries right now. I'm just going to say, so nonfiction, I read a lot of nonfiction, but for the most part, I've read more fiction. So, but I have read any number of nonfiction. And these, I just picked out a couple that really stayed with me. The newest one, I'll end with the newest one, but this one, so this is a book called Barracoon, and it's by Zora Neale Hurston. So she started doing interviews with this gentleman, Kosala, Joe Lewis, in 1927. And she was a novelist, a folklorist, an ethnographer, and an anthropologist. And so it's a very thin book. It's a very powerful book. It's told in his narrative, in his words. And the reason this book did not get published until 2018 was because, it was just never picked up, but she was not only committed to collecting artifacts of African-American folk culture, she was also adamant about their authentic presentation. And she did not want to change, she didn't want to westernize whatever, she didn't want to make it literary. She wanted it told in his voice. So it's told from his first person point of view, and she transcribes his story using his vernacular diction, spelling his words as she hears, them pronounced. And his storytelling is wonderful, and it's rooted in African soil. He's so lonely for his country, and he was actually captured by another tribe, kept in a barracoon, a barracks. He was held there for months, but he was sold away by other people of another Black tribe in Africa. But it's powerful. And so this is the story of the last Black cargo. He was one. So this is a narrative of someone who was alive and telling the story of how he was cargo and his life after that.
Miss Hurston was herself quite the accomplished person,
Mm-hmm.
anthropologist, ethnologist,
right,
author, filmmaker.
And I love that she preserved the authenticity of his voice. And I listened to it on CD because I really wanted to get the language. And I'm not going to read anything from it because I won't do it justice. So just real quick, another one of this stayed with me, Fatal Vision, Joe McGinnis. Okay. So Jeffrey MacDonald in 1970 murdered his pregnant wife and 2 young daughters. And he wasn't convicted until 1979. And his father-in-law was really key in getting that conviction through, because he kept poring over everything in the detail. And it stuck with me. It's a true crime, and I do like a mystery, as we know. But I was afraid at night. I had a young daughter, and this made me afraid that, that a monster in your house could do that. It was hideous. He made it look as if it was a Manson murder, but it was all very carefully thought out. And just recently, he tried to, just this last March, was looking to be released, and they're not having it.
There was a lawsuit about that book, that the subject of the book hired him to write a book proving his innocence, and he felt that the author hadn't proved it, so he sued him for it.
Oh, isn't that crazy? I didn't know that. I didn't read all.
I'm all about the facts, ma'am.
Yes, I see that. Yes. So, okay, on a completely different note, in 2019, this book was released. It's called One Long River of Song. So this is a complete turnaround. It was written by, well, the essays in it were written by Brian Doyle, and released with permission of his wife. He actually passed away at the age of 60 from brain cancer. But his essays are just beautiful, just so beautiful. He lived the pleasure of bearing daily witness to quiet glories hidden in people, places, and creatures of little or no size, renown, or commercial value. And he brought inimitably playful or soaring or aching or heartfelt language to his tellings, and he truly does. They were just lovely, just everyday life, simple things, and there's only one copy in my system, and I have it right now. So if you want it, you got to, let me know. I'll be releasing it shortly. But anyway, those kind of stuck with me. But
That was one of 7 novels that he wrote, 6 collections of poetry, and 13 essay collections. Plus, he was a magazine editor the full time.
He was just beautiful, beautiful language. And I had not heard this. And you find books by chance. Someone else had ordered this. It came across my desk. I start reading, this beautiful book. And, that's how I, found books. We find books. Hopefully you will find your book soon. But so I'm going to just turn it over. I want to hear. So the thing about is that I want to hear what you're reading. Tell me, I know there are a number of people here, if you're comfortable, telling me about something you're reading or have read recently, what you loved about it, or maybe even an author that you really like. But and it doesn't have to be not like I picked mystery. I was talking mystery nonfiction. You tell me what you're reading. Like to go first, and you do have to unmute yourself.
Looks like it's going to be Diane, maybe. Diane or Tara. It's going to be a race.
Okay.
I'll go.
All right.
One of my favorite mystery authors is Robert Dugoni. And he has this series that has the main character named Tracy Crosswhite, I think. Tracy Crosswhite. And she is a homicide cop in Seattle Police Department. And it is so good. He just came out with either the 8th or the 9th one. And the first, you definitely want to start with the first in the series, which is called My Sister's Grave. And it gets into the back history of her relationship with her family, and also with coming up and being a Seattle police officer. And as time goes on, somebody from her past comes into her life, re-enters her life, and so there's that angle. But Robert Dugoni is an incredible writer, just has such a way with creating a scene, creating an atmosphere that I can't recommend him enough. So I'm looking forward to reading the newest one. I'm on the wait list at my library, so hopefully it comes soon.
What's the new title? Do you know?
I don't. I'll look it up.
You said it's My Sister's Grave is the first one.
Yeah, that's the one you definitely want to start with.
The most recent one that I'm seeing in our library collection is A Cold Trail. It's the 7th book in the Tracy Crosswhite series.
Okay, yeah, that's the newest one.
But he also has a Charles Jenkins series. The 2nd book in that is The Last Agent.
Yeah. I also have read some of his, David Sloan series, and that's good. So he's a former attorney turned writer,
Right?
Yeah.
See, they're there.
Yeah. And the other really good book by him, which is not mystery, it's a standalone, is called something about Sam Hell,
Okay.
which made Waterworks. So really good.
Oh my gosh, I can't think of the title. Yeah. Is it
Yeah.
The Story of Sam Hell? Trying to think.
Yes. I think that,
Okay.
yeah. Did you read it?
I have not, but I did,
Oh.
you know, I've had people recommend that one. I just haven't
Yeah.
gotten around to it. You know, my list of books to read is out the door. I'm just saying. So, would
I have
someone
to back
listen-
up and correct something that I said real quick here. I said that the 7th book in the Tracy Crosswhite series was the most recent. So the 8th one is In Her Tracks. So that comes after the one I named.
Okay.
Great.
Back to you.
So let's see. Nancy. Hello, my Nancy. How are you? Tell me about one of the many thousands of books you are reading right now.
Well, I just started Alison Brennan's Tell No Lies.
Oh yeah,
I have read her before and really liked her.
yeah.
Her mysteries are very suspenseful and just very interesting whole situations, you know, that she describes. And this
Yeah.
one I just started, but I'm sure I will like it because I like the other things that she's written. And this is, I think, the newest one. It has a 2021 copyright. It's Tell No Lies. But looking at the beginning, she's written a lot of stuff. I mean, there are pages here of her books, and I didn't realize that she was that prolific. I've read some of this, but not nearly.
So that
Not
means
nearly all of this, or as many as she's actually written. So, and there's a couple of series, I think, too, that she has. Yeah.
so you're going to be keeping me busy. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for coming.
Tell No Lies is the 2nd book in the Mobile Response Team series.
Yes.
I
yes.
haven't
And
seen much of the first one yet.
I did read the first one because I recognized the mobile response team of the FBI. You know,
There we
that's
go.
the characters involved there. And this one, they're investigating a murder and some environmental pollution where animals are being poisoned, and they're trying to go undercover to find out if this mining company is responsible by the way that they're getting rid of their waste. And I think there's some human trafficking involved too, from what I'm reading, that is part of it. So there's a lot to it.
A lot going on.
Yes.
Starring
So-
young, edgy detective Kara Quinn and loner FBI agent Matt Costa.
Yeah.
Great. I know. I love the characters. Isn't that great? Diane, did you want to share about something that you've read or are reading that you're enjoying?
Do you want to get Dad to help?
Okay, I got it.
She's got
Yeah.
it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
hear you.
Great.
All right. Okay. I read cozy, and you people seem to read, you know, a little heavier. I mean, I've read Connolly, and way back I read all those Wamba books, which I read Joseph Wamba books, Choir Boys and
Right.
Black Marble, and I read those. But my favorite, it's hard to say a favorite, but I think this is my favorite cozy author right now is Laura Childs, and her mysteries take. Is that the newest one, that Hibiscus?
It is. It's Haunted Hibiscus.
Yeah, no, I haven't read that one. Okay, anyway, she has 3 series. The Haunted Hibiscus is the newest one she owns a tea shop in Charleston. And then she has another one called the Cackleberry Club, where these women in their 30s and 40s run a restaurant and they solve mysteries. And then there's another one she does in New Orleans on scrapbooking. The scrapbooking is not my favorite one. The other two I'm just crazy about, and she has lots of them. So if you're looking for one that has a long in the series, that you need to put on your list. And there's one more. Oh no, here, Miranda James.
Yes. Mhm.
Have you read those? They're by they're quote unquote by a retired librarian. He solves mysteries. He volunteers his time at the college where he used to be the librarian, and he has a Maine Coon cat called Diesel. Who goes everywhere with him, even to work. And he got his name because of the sound he makes when he purrs.
Oh,
But those, there are quite a few of those too. Those are my favorite ones. But I mean, once you got me started, you never get me stopped. So I'll just stop right there. But those, I love those. And I'm just so excited when a new one comes out with all of those. And
If I may, Laura Charles writes a lot of cozies under her own name, but she also writes thrillers under the name of Jerry Schmidt. Would you read
does?
any of those?
Laura Childs?
Yes, that's
She
right.
only has written a few under Jerry Schmidt, from what I
Okay,
understand.
can you give me that name again, please?
Sure. GerrySchmitt. So Jerry Schmidt.
You know, I don't think I've ever read anything by her.
Yeah.
I'm working to get my notebook so I can figure that out.
I
but
know,
have-
I saw
20
you pick up your notebook and I knew we had, see?
Well, that's interesting. Now, what kind of mysteries are those?
Those are thrillers. So if you were ever willing to try to reach out to a thriller, maybe reading something.
Well,
by
I
her
love
would
her
be the way to
stuff
do it.
so much. I'm willing to give it a go. So I have read, thrillers too. One
You
that
read some of those John Grishams.
yeah, I read those, but one of the is nonfiction that I consider a thriller, and I don't know if you've read it or not. She wrote something about the orchid. Oh gosh, I can't. Her name escapes me now, but she wrote a book about the fire in the Los Angeles Public Library and how they solved, quote unquote,
Yeah.
the mystery. Have you read that one?
Yeah, the librarian, or the library it's called.
It's called The
Oh.
Library. Can you
Yeah.
remember who wrote that?
The Black Orchid author. like you
Yeah,
said.
that's what I said. And she
That's
has
so
a couple more.
Scott, are you on it? Scott's on it. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Working on it,
I
man.
think
Yeah.
there's a couple more, but that one was a combination of,
Is it Susan Orland?
Yes,
yes.
just beat me to it.
yes.
There we go. We're
Yeah.
solving all
That's
mysteries
helpful,
as we
yeah.
go. This is it.
We found her name,
There you go.
Susan
Yes.
Orland.
Yeah,
Susan Orland, yeah.
that was
But that, I
fascinating.
really enjoyed that one, the library. That was something.
There are so many books out right now with library. The Paris Library, I heard, is wonderful. Historical fiction. The librarians of the Paris Library and their efforts in World War II. Librarians rock. We all know this. I did want to make one little note about Laura Child's book. This was one of the ones that I grabbed as the series of, summer series of suspense. It does come, it includes recipes and tea time tips, because we all need those, all right? So, and there are so many kinds of, so many different kinds of
Yeah.
series for every
So-
possible interest.
Can I ask
Somebody
you a
just-
question? Have you read the Bailey Cates cozies?
Bailey Cates.
I
No, I
have.
haven't.
It's about a bakery and they have magic powers and they have a coven in the bakery and they make special. Those are really good. You really must try them.
Okay. We're in. That sounds great. Patricia, would you like to tell us about what you're reading right now? There
Okay,
she
you
is.
can hear me. Hey, Right now, I'm reading, I love the cozy books also, the
Good.
mysteries. And I'm reading Deadhead and Buried by H.Y. Hannah. I need the large print books, so I get mine on my Kindle most of the time. And it's set in England, and she's inherited a nursery from an aunt that she didn't even, or her grandmother that she didn't even know. And, you know, somebody gets killed, and it's really good.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
Deadhead and Buried. One of the call signs of a cozy mystery is they've got the cutest titles.
And there you
Play
go.
on words and just, you know, they're playful and they're light. And I do have to say, COVID is just crazy. And so some people are reading voraciously and some people are just, you know, hit and miss. Some people just really right now just want a happy ending, a nice story with a happy ending. And there's too much, you know, there's just too much going on. And sometimes you just need to escape and have some fun and have good things happen and good happy endings. And, you know, and that's so important. But, you know, what to each his own, honestly. I know when I'm in a slump, I have to read a good murder mystery. And I was joking about it last time, you know, to get the blood flowing in my head, whatever, you know, it's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's you know, you start getting into the story, the adrenaline, or I don't know what that is, but anyway, so Miss Cindy, what are you reading right now?
Well,
How many thousands of books are you reading right now?
so do you want my Goodreads total for the year so far?
Yeah, shame us off. Let's go.
320 books so far. I've been reading mostly romances because I again, what you said, I've been wanting happy endings. I just want everything to be fine. But I have also been reading, since the TV show came out on Netflix, I reread the first 3 books of the Shadow and Bone trilogy. And then I read the rest of the books in the Grisha universe. And those were really good. It's Russian-based magic, which is pretty fun. And the Netflix show is really good. I've been reading some of the Julia Quinn after Bridgerton. I'd read a few before, but I hadn't read them all. I've been going through. Oh, here is a graphic novel I read. It's a middle grade. It is Measuring Up. It is about a girl named Cece who just moved from Vietnam and from Taiwan to there, and she left her grandmother there, and she loves her grandmother a lot, and she misses her so much. So she learns that her grandma won't be able to come visit her, so she decides she's going to enter a cooking contest to win travel money for her grandma, and she learns to use her own cooking from Taiwan that her grandma taught her and use new American traditions that she's learning while living in America to be part of this cooking competition. And it's really good if you have kids who like the Raina Telgemeier style of comic books. And it's just a really sweet, gentle middle grade one that talks about the importance of family.
Great. You know what? I was just going to say, you can't talk about all 320 books you just read. So
That's true. That's true.
Unless you're very, very fast.
I know. And
Just
Cindy is
wrapping them,
yeah.
wrapping all the titles.
I was just going to say, so Cindy and Nancy are they might be head to head on their total number of books they've read this year, because Nancy's prolific. I know we can't hear you, but we know you're protesting. But it's just great to have you all here. I know I just had a couple things. I know
I can also jump in and recommend a few things.
Yes, please.
While I'm
Yes,
here
yes, yes.
investigating. I
Right.
can recommend Can I Recycle This? Guide to Better Recycling and How to Reduce Single-Use Plastics by Jenny Romer. It's easy to read. It's got a children's book like illustrations. It's the guide to recycling that you may not have realized that you ever needed. If you were ever wondering what the numbers mean and the triangles on your plastic goods, if you're wondering if the plastic caps are as recyclable as the plastic milk cartons they come with, hint they're not, or just stare in your bin and wonder, are they really going to take all this stuff? Then this is the book for you.
I need that.
The War on Normal People. The Truth About American Disappearing Jobs and Why Universal Basic Income is Our Future by Andrew Yang. So, spoiler alert, the jobs are disappearing, according to him, because of automation. And if you've ever been to a grocery store and you notice that most of the cashier lines are empty, but then they've got all these automated checkout stations for you, and you're wondering where all those cashiers went, well, Yang tells us that there's going to be a lot more of that throughout every industry. And the solution to that, he posits, is universal basic income, which when he was running for president, not many people took seriously and just laughed at. But now we're in a completely different world. People are getting used to regular stimulus checks, which is basically universal basic income. And now we maybe as a nation need to have a discussion about whether or not we're ready for universal basic income. And this is the book to read to understand that issue. And in lighter reading, The Pioneers by David McCullough, the heroic story of the settlers who brought the American ideal west. If you ever thought that history was hard to read, then you haven't been reading David McCullough. He takes harsh subjects like fighting over territory, starvation, treason against the United States, slavery, and makes it all sound as mellow as if Garrison Keillor was just telling you the news from Lake Wobegon. It is a book that takes place in post-colonial times. So West here isn't talking about the Wild West, it's talking about Ohio. And it's got a whole cast of characters that will make Hamilton blush with envy. It's a great read, as we discovered in our Wednesday morning nonfiction group here at the library.
Great, great. That sounds wonderful. Thank you for those. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Yeah. So, and there, I'm just gonna, let's see, there are a couple, I'll just give just a brief shout out to a couple things that people are reading right now that they're recommending. As I said, I get a lot of my recommendations from my readers, especially in the nonfiction. But Caste, Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson is supposed to be a really, really wonderful read. Not just, I mean, castes are worldwide and they're here. They've been here, they've been around forever, and they're going to continue that way. So, and
we're
more
not
understanding of it.
we're talking casts.
Yes, but it is supposed to be a very, very thoughtful, well-written read of things we don't even realize how it affects us in our society. And it's not just, it's that hierarchy and, things that we may not even recognize are even happening, but we feel uncomfortable with, So this is another book out, this autobiography by Cicely Tyson. I've read a couple passages in here. She writes beautifully, and what a treasure she was for us. And we lost her so recently. Yeah. I'm the observer of human nature and the dreamer of audacious dreams. I'm a woman who has hurt as immeasurably as I have loved, a child of God, divinely guided by his hand. And here in my 9th decade, I am the woman who at long last has something meaningful to say. Just beautifully written. So that's a recommendation. And then some other books. These are biographies. They kind of speak for themselves. Eleanor Roosevelt. It's supposed to be very, very well written. It's by David Michaelis. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. But that's supposed to be a wonderful biography about a wonderful woman. And this one, I haven't heard a whole lot about, but this one is Lady Bird Johnson, Hiding in Plain Sight, and how she, really turned the East Wing. She was the first lady to really turn the East Wing like a professional office. She was, you don't hear as much about her That's the new biography, in case you're interested in first ladies. And
I was just reading that Eleanor biography is the first single volume biography written on her in over 50 years.
there hasn't been a lot. And people are always asking about books about Eleanor. And they recently, was it PBS that recently had a series on her, a short series on her. And, you know, anytime they have something going on, they will, it comes up. And I'm so glad that they've written that that's been released. For those of us that are forgetful, Lisa Genova, who wrote Still Alice. She is a neuroscientist and a storyteller. And this is, you know, so many of us, as we forget things, get really worried. And especially now, I forget things so easily, especially within this last year. But this is the science of memory and the art of forgetting. And that memory is profoundly impacted by meaning, emotion, sleep, stress, and context. Once you understand the language of memory and how it functions, its incredible strengths and maddening weaknesses, you can both vastly improve your ability to remember and feel less rattled when you inevitably forget. Because we're all human, and and it's not very big. It's not a very big book.
I consider Still Alice the most terrifying horror story I've ever, well, actually I watched the movie, I'll admit. I thought that was the most terrifying horror film that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's frightening. It is frightening. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible disease. This one was for fun that I pulled off the nonfiction shelf. Okay, so you know, there's recommendations at your library. There's also just browsing your nonfiction shelf, just see what's going on with the new nonfiction. And this one's called We Came, We Saw, We Left, A Family Gap Year, written by Charles Whelan. 9 months, 6 continents, 3 teenagers. And it's their family gap year, hilarious account of a family, their experiment. He paints a picture of adventure and connectivity, juggling themes of local politics, global economics, and family dynamics, while exploring answers to questions like, how do you sneak out of a Peruvian town that has been barricaded by the local police? And where can you get treatment? Yeah, and where can you get treatment for a flesh-eating bacteria your daughter picked up 2 continents ago?
Very quickly.
Okay. Yeah, and then, 9 months across 6 continents with 3 teenagers. What can go wrong?
Okay, can you give us the author again?
This is by Charles Whelan, Wheelan. And it really sounded funny. Just a complete and utter delight of a book from start to finish. He and his remarkable family deliver not only a page-turning travelogue, but also a blueprint for restoring a long-lost sense of adventure in our lives.
What I'm seeing about that's so interesting is that his first book was a political thriller. So everyone assumed that his next book would be a political thriller as well. And then he came out with a travel memoir that's fun about family instead. So it really surprised everybody.
Exactly. So those are just a couple of things. And then as far as I was like, summer series of suspense. So I grabbed this one I'm going to recommend. So it's called High Five. It's by Joe Ide. It's actually the 4th in the IQ series, Isaiah Quantabi. And so he is, he thinks that Private IQ is just the man to save his daughter. So Christiana is the daughter of the biggest arms dealer on the West Coast. And she's also the sole witness and #1 suspect in the murder of her boyfriend, found dead inside her Newport Beach boutique. So Christiana poses multiple challenges as Isaiah's new client. Chief among them, multiple personalities, 5 radically different ones, including a naive shopkeeper, an obnoxious drummer in a rock band, and a wanton seductress. And his dilemma, no single personality saw this entire incident. To find out what really happened the night of the murder, he has to piece it together from each of her identities. before the cops catch up. You know, I'm like, that sounds like fun, you know. I know, I'm weird. What catches your eye, you know, when you're looking for a new book? And this one I'm going to recommend, you know, for series writers. So how many of all of us may have read Agatha Christie? So Agatha Christie has never hired anyone to write further into her series until Sophie Hannah. And Sophie Hannah, this is one of the new Hercule Poirot mysteries. And this is the first one. It's called The Monogram Murders. So if you're looking to continue something, she's written 4 or over the last number of years, but she's the first one they've trusted with Poirot. So that's a kind of a cool honor. So that's just a suggestion. And that is my seg into some singular suspense for your summer. The Mystery of Mrs. Christie. So Agatha Christie had her own mystery. And in 1926, in December of 1926, she disappeared for 11 days.
Sure.
And she goes missing, and, you know, her husband and daughter have no idea. England unleashes an unprecedented manhunt to find the up and coming author. And 11 days later, she reappears just as mysteriously as she disappeared, claiming amnesia and providing no explanation of her time away. So she's got her own mystery. And if you haven't discovered Marie Benedict, she has been fast becoming a favorite with my older adults. She's written books about Hedy Lamarr. If you've read The Only Woman in the Room, that's one I recommended last time, about Hedy Lamarr and her work as a scientist. Did you know that? Anyway, so
Agatha Christie's 11 Missing Days is a real unsolved mystery. No one
It is.
to this day knows where she went.
And it says, with twists and surprises and an ending that packs a punch in more ways than one, it's a whodunit, infinitely worthy of its famous heroine. So give it a try. So that's kind of fun. This is another one that's new that I think you might like. That sounds like a great story. We begin at the end. And it's called an unputdownable thriller that packs a serious emotional punch. One of those rare books that surprises you along the way and then linger in your mind long after you've finished it. That was a review by Kristen Hanna. Duchess Day Radley is 13. She's a self-proclaimed outlaw. I love her already. Rules are for other people. She is the fierce protector of her 5-year-old brother, Robin, and the parent to her mother, Star, a single mom incapable of taking care of herself, let alone her 2 kids. And Walk is he's the chief of police, and he's still trying to heal the old wound of having given testimony that sent his best friend and Vincent King to prison decades before. And he's in overdrive protecting Duchess and her brother. And now 30 years later, King is being released. And Duchess and Walk must face the trouble that comes with his return. So it says it's an extraordinary, it's not just it's a thriller, but it's also a family drama and about choosing your own family. You have more than one family, the family you have and the family you choose. But that's really, really highly recommended by a number of authors.
Bestseller.
John Hart. I was just talking about John Hart, the most compelling young protagonist I've read in the last decade, in at least a decade, a deep and meaningful story that is an absolute delight from first page to last, just page turning. So anyway, lots of great recommendations for that one. And I'm gonna just stop with one. I'm gonna do one other because I think you might, if you're looking for a different kind of mystery again. This one's called The Lost Apothecary. And Forgotten History, a secret network of women, a legacy of poison and revenge. Welcome to The Lost Apothecary. In the depths of 18th century London, a secret apothecary shop caters to an unusual kind of clientele. Women across the city whisper of a mysterious figure named Nella, who sells well-disguised poisons to use against the oppressive men in their lives. Nella's dark world is no place for her newest patron, a precocious 12-year-old named Eliza Fanning. But their unexpected bond sparks a string of consequences that echo throughout the centuries. And 200 years later, Carolyn discovers an aged apothecary vial in the River Thames. And as she is newly grappling, a curious research project, I'll just kind of fast forward. It's a welcome distraction. When she discovers a link between the vial and London's long unsolved apothecary murders, Carolyn's upended present soon collides with an explosive history, binding her fate to Nella's and Eliza's in a stunning twist that transcends the barrier of time. That sounds fun. We got murder, we got mystery, we got travel, we've got history in there too. So that's all kind of fun, but
I have a history as well. And a real missing book, in fact. It's a book that I wanted to talk about tonight because last time in our first Book Bites, I had talked about an author I didn't feel handled Sherlock Holmes well enough. So I thought to balance things out, I would talk about an author who handled Sherlock Holmes very well, an author named Larry Millett, who wrote a trilogy positing a question that no one was asking: what if Sherlock Holmes came to Minnesota? And sure, you're probably thinking that he should went up there for some Swedish donuts and maybe a little bit of ice fishing, don't you know? But actually, it's a riveting mystery set against the backdrop of the real-life Hinckley Forest Fire of 1896. And it is easily the best of the three books. I highly recommend the first one. The second two are optional, but read the first one. And it's an old book now. It came out in 1996. And in fact, it's missing in the sense that no one in our library consortium owns it. But if you're really interested in trying it, and I recommend that you do, we can always interlibrary loan this book for you.
So that sounds like a great recommendation. Always looking for a good Sherlock Holmes. There are a lot of Sherlock Holmes fans who are always looking for that perfect next series or rewrite or edition. So,
and when I was looking up that IQ series, I saw that a lot of people are comparing that detective to Sherlock Holmes as a modern day Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, cool. That's very cool. Didn't realize that. So did anyone have any questions about anything that we talked about? Or I'm hoping I didn't talk too fast about different things, but if you're looking for a particular author or a read-alike, Diane, I'm a little intimidated by that giant notebook you have. You have lots and lots and lots of books in there, I know, and recommendations. But is there anything we can recommend for you? What's next?
Maybe you could give them a hint as to what we're going to talk about in the next Book Bites. Do you have any idea what the subject will be?
I haven't thought past this night.
Does anyone here have a suggestion for her?
If there's a genre you'd like me to talk about, like I did mysteries this time. I mean, and there's
I like travel books.
Travel books, travel nonfiction books, or travel like a travelogue novel where people that kind of book.
Kind of travel logs of real people. I read a series by, I won't be able to remember their name now, but they're called, the first one was called Dear Bob and Sue. And they went to visit all the national parks. Mm-hmm. They sent these postcards to their neighbors at home, what happened to them. And, I was going along thinking this would be really good, but then they decided, believe it or not, there's a national park Beyond the Arctic Circle, and I decided, well, you could count me out of that. But there were like, I think there were 3 in the series. Then they went to national monuments, and then they started taking another couple with them. But it was just entertaining, all the different places, and they gave you all kinds of travel tips if you ever decide to go to these places. It was especially interesting to me, though, because the couple went to KU, and my husband and I did too. I'm from Kansas originally. And they went to Lawrence to visit their kids at college. You know, it had that extra, you know, interest for me there. But I read those 3, and I really enjoyed those. That kind of thing is. And then there's one called Humor of Doubt, where Theodore Roosevelt explores the Amazon. That one's really good too.
Oh, I remember that one. That had come out a number of years ago. Yeah, okay. That's definitely, that sounds fun. I know, then you'd probably really enjoyed We Came, We Saw, We Left.
There's a new one called Open Spaces or Open Roads, where a middle-aged couple visits all the national parks, but I can't find any, you know, this Pinnacle doesn't have it yet, so I'm waiting.
Okay, you know, you can always request that. You know, you've got an in with that daughter of yours. You know, she can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll put her on it.
Wonderful. So, did anyone else have anything they'd like to add or ask or comment? Or I'm hoping you come back. I'm so glad you came tonight. Hopefully we've given you some ideas for something new and something different. It's just
And you're
good to
all
see
clear
all
to
your
suspects.
faces.
Just so everybody.
We're not suspects anymore. We are not responsible. Yeah, we have no responsibility at all. So anyway, thank you all for coming. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
And hope, you know, we haven't come up with the next date, but we may be doing, we may be having book bites once a month or so. We'll put it up on the library website and keep an eye out for us. And everybody have a great night. And thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Take care, everyone.